Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson Football at the Voice of College Football. We got a ton to talk about tonight. We're doing it bye-week style around here. We're going to do some mid-season grades, talk a little injury updates, some final thoughts on the Virginia game, all of that coming up and more in tonight's show. But before we get into that, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We are on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We just hit over 5,300 subscribers. So thank you guys so much for that. And please continue to help us to grow, share the videos, share the content, and bring more people in to talk about Clemson football and college football. And then this is a live video, of course. So if you're in the live chat right now, if you could just go ahead and hit that like button for us. It really helps us out with that YouTube algorithm and kind of projects the video out and brings more people in as well. So appreciate your guys' helps with that. And then last but certainly not least, got the super chat feature available for you guys. If you guys want to support what me and Jordan do here on the channel, and more specifically, the All In Show, please hit that super chat feature. Me and Jordan will be sure to thank you for your support of the channel and then read and respond to your comment and or question attached to that super chat. And with all of that said, and without further ado, let me bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, man? How you doing tonight?
Living the dream, man. Just kind of been, I've got my notes prepared for this, for the game Clemson has against Bye. So I'm going to see,
Is that a Power 4 team or?
I'm not entirely sure. They don't seem to have a logo or anything like that. It might be sort of a Bishop Sycamore situation.
Is it one of them fake colleges like
potentially
like Pake State? You know?
It seems to be, but they don't even have any sort of.
They don't even have a logo.
I don't know, man.
Man, at least Pake State's got a logo. I ain't never seen their football team, but you know,
I don't know. But I've just been getting my notes ready for this preview.
Yeah, it's tough to find some tape on them. I couldn't go watch any of their games or anything.
I've been doing some digging. I'm pretty good at it. I'll find them eventually. No, but seriously, it's good to be back. Glad to just it's nice to just have a casual show where we just we don't have a game to talk about. Feels like we can kind of relax a little bit and talk about whatever we want, and it doesn't have to be like oh man, we gotta hit all these things and we gotta make sure we get through the preview. So this is good, and we got a little bit of a surprise for y'all at the end of the show. We're gonna try something a little different. I won't spoil it until we get to it, but y'all stay tuned for the length of the show because I think it's something you guys will enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a special little addition at the end of the show, a little surprise for you guys. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully you guys want to continue it going forward, but we'll announce that a little bit later. Pretty awesome to have a bye week though, man. I'm with you. Kind of a unique season where every team in college football gets 2 bye weeks. I'm going to be honest. I kind of like it. I wish it was staying, but unfortunately it will not. This is the only unique season where we're going to have multiple bye weeks, but I do kind of like it, especially with college football moving to an extended schedule, even more extended than it already became with the 4-team playoff. Now you got a 12-team playoff. Now, if you go to the national championship, you're playing 17 games now?
Yeah, good. Yeah,
is that the number?
I think so. If you get
you could play 17 games, right?
Yeah, if you don't get especially if you don't get a first round bye,
yeah. If you don't get a first round bye, could end up playing 17 games. So that's pretty crazy. So I like the 2 bye weeks for each team, but again. I don't have any control over that, so it is what it is. All right, let's give a quick shout out to the comment section real quick, Jordan, and then we will dive into the show tonight, the planned portion of the show, and then quickly get to our surprise for everybody in the comment section. Got 16 people in the live chat right now. Go ahead and hit that like button while you're in here. Appreciate you guys showing up. We got John Sarian, an absolute regular here, one of our moderators. Thank you so much for being here, John. Really do appreciate your support of the channel. Jackson Johnson, the man, the myth, the legend himself, the guy that keeps the voice of college football and all these crazy channels going and plugged in with all the information we need. Thank you so much for being here, Jackson Johnson. Really do appreciate you. Jay's in here, one of the regulars. Appreciate you, man. Jamarius Payne is in here. Thank you so much for being in here, man. Always in here as well. Clemson football kickoff is in here. Thanks so much for being in here, man. Really do appreciate you. But yeah, thanks for getting into the comment section already, guys. Continue to chop it up in there. You guys know at the end of the show, we always get to you, turn it over to you, and let you drive the show, with the caveat that we got a little special thing for you guys tonight at the end of the show. So stick it out with us. It's going to be a good show. Probably won't be as long as some of our previous episodes, but that'll just give us more time in the end to chop it up with you guys anyway, which is what we like to do. So, Jordan, I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first topic of the night, and it is none other than the injury report for the Clemson Tigers heading into this bye week, the second bye week of the season. In all seriousness, I don't think Clemson could look much better heading into the bye week with the current injury situations and where we're at right now. I don't think as a Clemson fan, you could be more thankful, appreciative, excited, and just grateful for where we are at an injury standpoint right now. Really only two big names pop out to you on that injury report right now, Tyler Brown and Brian Wesco. Obviously, that's the same position group, and in years past, that probably would have crippled the Clemson offense. However, this season got multiple guys stepping up all over the place and being pass catchers and being big-time players for the offense, and Cade Klubnik and all that kind of stuff. But what are your thoughts on these two guys? I know Tyler Brown had is he the one that had the tightrope surgery?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I want to make sure I get it right. So Tyler Brown had the infamous tightrope surgery, I think made famous first by one Tua Tagovailoa, former Alabama quarterback. Obviously, we know he was struggling with that high ankle sprain. Dabo talked about in previous interviews where he kind of hit that plateau, and they decided to just kind of shut him down and get that tightrope surgery. Dabo said it's kind of a case-by-case basis. It's really dependent on the player and their timeline coming back, but it looks like there is some possibility that we get him back out of the bye week. Certainly before the end of the season, I think Tyler Brown will be back in action and looking a lot closer to himself. And then obviously Brian Wesco struggling with an ankle injury as well. Obviously not as severe as Tyler Brown's. Sounds like he'll definitely be back out of the bye. What are your thoughts on these two guys? What, if any, impact is it going to have going forward for the Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you already mentioned that these are, two of your, more prominent wide receivers, and especially, Bryant Wesco this season has certainly been just, one of the bright spots and one of the stories of the Clemson offense resurgence. So, when it comes to him, it's a very big deal to get him, potentially get him back next week. Obviously, Louisville is going to be one of the better teams you've played. Might be the second best team you've played, you could argue. So getting him back and just, adding another explosive element to the offense would be huge. When it comes to Tyler Brown, obviously tightrope surgery, you mentioned it. It is a case-by-case thing. Like some guys bounce back and recover and are good really fast. And then some, maybe it takes a few more weeks. And so we'll kind of see how it goes. But they have not ruled the possibility of him coming back next week. So if you get him back, I mean, that's just another element. And as long as you have your other guys healthy, I mean, it's this Clemson wide receiver room is pretty dangerous. And already it is. But you add those two back into the fold. It does really change the calculus, and it'll make for a lot of fun in terms of explosive, passing offense. So, really just in general, this injury situation is about as good as you could ask for. I mean, yeah, you've got guys have nicks and bruises week to week, but there's nothing, long term. I know Jake Brenningstool went out this past week. He seems to be okay.
Yeah.
Phil Maffa obviously has been, bumped and bruised a little bit the past couple of weeks, but he's still going strong. So, I think that's a really big deal. Other than that, you got Stephylon Green back last week. Well, Vic Burley is still they're still trying to kind of work him back in. But hopefully you get to see him next week, because I really want to see some more of him. Yes, but yeah, man, as far as the injuries go, especially compared to previous seasons, you're in a pretty good shape. Knock on wood, because surprises can always happen. Has been known to happen around here for a little bit. So
every now and then we get a rash of injuries. We've had quite a few injuries throughout the first half of this season, to be completely honest, but we've just been able to weather the storm much better this season than we have in seasons past, specifically at that wide receiver position, but also at the defensive line position as well. We've been able to weather some of those injuries, and even at the cornerback position, we've had a couple guys in and out, stuff like that. So been able to weather the storm as far as the injury front goes for the Tigers. Pretty good season so far on the injury front. I mean, you mentioned Phil Maffa. He'll get banged up on a play, but he seems to just come back in and keep doing what Phil does. Jake Brenningstool was interviewed this week and asked by the media about that kind of injury, and he was like, "It's just football. I got banged up a little bit. I'm fine." So sounds like nothing serious there. So definitely a good thing, because he's a big piece of that offense and a huge weapon for us. So sounds like we're going to be in great shape coming out of the bye week. Let's hope Clemson responds out of this bye week like they did out of the previous bye week, because we talked about it going into that bye week, Jordan, that, before that we had started to have a little bit of a, what do you want to call it? A trend, if you will, coming out of bye weeks a little slow, a little lackadaisical, not really firing on all cylinders, but didn't do that after the first bye week. Hopefully Clemson does the same thing, stays focused, stays locked in during this bye week, comes out healthy and ready to roll. I see people in the chat asking about Adam Randall. Didn't see him much last week. Yeah, his snaps were definitely limited. Seems like they're still trying to work him back in a bit slowly. But, the dude's a freak. This bye week is just going to further help him heal from that surgery that he had, the 2 screws that got put into his foot.
Right.
Still can't believe that I'm saying that. And that
he wasn't supposed to be back, like timeline wise. He wasn't supposed to be back this soon, like in terms of how it normally goes.
Yeah, I think originally Dabo's thought process he would maybe be back after this bye week.
Right.
But he's already played 2 games since then. So since the surgery. So shout out to him and his toughness. But I think probably after this bye week, you'll start to see him work back into the offense a little bit more, and those snaps kind of increase.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, keep in mind we are streaming on all your favorite audio platforms. Search Clemson Live on wherever you get your podcasts, and you can listen to me and Jordan's, all of our long-form audio, all of the shows we do, all of the stuff here done on this channel is over there for you to digest on a little bit different platform, maybe when you're going for a run or in the car driving long distance, whatever the case may be. Whenever you consume your podcast, keep Clemson Live in your thoughts. Go check us out over there, rate, review, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, and that would be greatly appreciated and help the channel out as well.
Especially the rating. You mentioned the rate review, like that helps a ton. On Spotify, especially, because they push those up. We're trying to get. I'm not sure we're on Apple Music yet. I'm gonna have to go and check, but I know we're on Spotify and other podcast platforms. But Apple Music is kind of weird. They're or Apple Podcasts. They're kind of weird and harder to get on.
Apple's always got to be different.
Yeah, they do. So but please leave a 5-star review if you haven't. And just even if you don't watch on the podcast, the podcast version, or listen to the podcast version, it would be greatly appreciated, because we do want to increase our listenership across all platforms. But keep supporting the YouTube as well, because that is obviously our bread and butter and the main. It's the main thing. So, but any other support is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Really appreciate your help with that. Moving right along in the show tonight, I thought it was only fitting to finally, for us on this show, I don't think we've talked about Cade Klubnik's odds or Cade Klubnik for Heisman or anything like this on this show, outside of maybe a question or two from the live chat section. But me and you have not talked about this on the show, and that was on purpose. One, as Clemson fans, us and the Heisman Trophy don't exactly mesh together well. I feel like we've been slighted a few times by the Heisman Trophy voters with a few more than qualified candidates, if you will, in the past. The running joke, at least for myself, is that if you play for Clemson, you might as well forget about the Heisman. But I thought it was fitting tonight for us to at least debut and talk about Cade Klubnik's odds, because he has officially moved into the top 5 for Heisman odds. Now, do I think Cade Klubnik's going to win the Heisman? Not what I'm saying at all. But with that said, if you go back to spring practice, Jordan, and some of the things that we were talking about heading into the season and where we saw this team possibly going and some questions that we had about this team, one of the biggest questions this offseason was Cade Klubnik, the quarterback for Clemson. How much would he grow? How many steps forward would he take in his second year as the Clemson signal caller? And those questions have been answered in a resounding manner for Cade Klubnik. He has outperformed, I think, any expectations that any of us, even the most orange-colored glass Clemson fan, the Disney Clemson fan, if you will, whatever you want to call them, the most optimistic person would never have guessed that halfway through the season, Cade Klubnik would be a top 5 in the Heisman race. So what are your thoughts on Cade Klubnik's performance so far, and how he's placed himself in those top 5 of odds to take home that Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty surreal, man. Like really just to put things into perspective, and I do want to give credit. John in the chat, he did put at the beginning of the show that per PFF, Clemson leads college football with 18 touchdowns of 20+ yards. I think that really puts into perspective just how much of a jump this offense has made, and not just because the offensive line got better and you have greatly improved your wide receiver talent, but those definitely have helped a ton. But I think it starts with just the growth of Cade Klubnik from last season. It really is pretty incredible. And I would have told you were on some substances if you had told me this is where he would be in the Heisman odds, 7 games into the season. And the only 3 interceptions, no fumbles lost, that I don't believe. 20 touchdowns, nearly 2,000 passing yards, like all benchmarks for where we thought Cade needed to be for this team to be closer to what we've gotten used to as Clemson football fans. He's exceeded them greatly. We talked about how Cade just needs to settle in and play within the offense and be a game manager and be able to distribute the football. And not try to be the hero, not try to make the wow plays and try to force things. And he's done that, certainly. Like he's been a very, very smart with the football mostly. And then, but you couple that with the playmaking ability that he's exhibited in year 2 in the system. It's night and day compared to last season. Not only is he just hitting the plays that are there, he's creating plays for his teammates, whether it's with his legs or running the football, or escaping the pocket, extending plays like that play against Virginia on the first drive, where he evades, like he sits in the pocket, the pocket starts to collapse. He makes a couple Virginia defensive linemen miss, escapes the pocket, finds Cole Turner down, rolling out to his left. That was just that exemplifies the growth that he's made. Because those types of plays, last season it was either going to be a sack, fumble, or he was going to make an ill-advised throw into coverage, and that just hasn't been the case, man. It's been really, really cool to see. That, as far as the his Heisman odds and all that, I think it definitely exemplifies the growth that he's made. But definitely don't expect him to be hoisting that trophy. There's a lot of football left. You never know, but I think the competition's kind of stiff, and of course they're gonna hold that Georgia performance in week 1 against him, fair or not. I think that I'm just happy that he's in a position where he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in college football right now. That's just way beyond anything I could have expected. And I'm just it feels so much better as a fan to see his growth and relief, because we knew like the success of the season was going to hinge on him growing from last season.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't think any Clemson fan would have thought Cade Klubnik would be where he's at. Now, to your point, I don't expect him to hoist that Heisman Trophy at all. I don't even expect him to get an invite to New York. I don't ever think he gets that high in the Heisman odds. I just point this out for giving Cade a little bit of his flowers, right, on what he's done so far this season, how he's progressed from last year to this year, because the player that he was last year and the player that he is this year those two players couldn't be further apart on the spectrum of a quarterback. His decision making, outside of a few decisions, obviously, but his decision making is so much better this year. He's not putting the ball into harm's way like he was last season. He's making smart decisions. He's operating within the pocket, right? He's moving up sometimes when he gets pressured, right? He's not always trying to do that traditional high school quarterback move where they run backwards in the pocket and think they can outrun everybody, right? He did that a lot last year, lost a lot of yards, gave up a lot of sacks that way. Not doing that this year, right? Being a decisive decision maker, throwing with some anticipation, checking plays at the line of scrimmage, showing that he's comfortable with reading defenses pre-snap and changing a play into something more favorable and scoring touchdowns off of it. He's done it a couple times with Antonio Williams specifically this season so far. So I think you've seen the maturation of Cade Klubnik. You've seen the growth. You've seen his comfortability, and a lot of that has to do with obviously his skill players. His offensive line is protecting him a lot better. His skill players are obviously operating at a very high level, but you got to give Cade his due as well, because he's delivering the ball there on time and making the right reads and making the right decisions. And we would not be anywhere close to the position that we're in heading into November without the level of play that he's produced on the field this year.
No doubt, man. It's awesome to see, and it really does make you just really excited for the future and how this offense will continue to grow. Because I mean, I still think there's a lot of things that they could improve on, and of course they feel like there's a lot of things they could improve on. They were not necessarily satisfied with all the points that they left on the board on Saturday, and they scored 48 points. So that just it tells you just the standard of excellence that has been raised to the point so significantly that you are in a position to be one of the best offenses in college football. And I saw a post about Cade Klubnik and his stats compared to Trevor Lawrence in his Heisman season. 7 games in, and the
Mm-hmm.
numbers are really, really close. I'm not saying, hold on, but for all the I'm sure most of you are Clemson fans, but I know we have some, I know we have other fans that listen to the show. I'm not saying that Cade Klubnik is Trevor Lawrence by any means, but it does put into perspective that, just how much of a high level Cade is playing at right now, that, he's nearly matching one of the, arguably the best quarterback in school history, in his final year of college, where he was second in the Heisman voting. So, I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope he continues on this trajectory for the rest of the season, continues to being that decisive decision maker, delivering the ball on time and running this offense at a very high level, because that's what we need for the second half of the season. Doesn't get any easier for the Tigers. Everybody's going to come with their best shot. Everybody's going to try to knock them off. You want to complete the rest of the season without another loss, get into that 12-team playoff, or get into the ACC championship first, win that, get to the 12-team playoff, and see what the matchup looks like from there. Hopefully make a little noise there. But definitely going to take Cade, continuing the trajectory that he's on right now. So shout out to Cade. Much respect for going from basically called a terrible quarterback all offseason by most of the media pundits, most people saying that Clemson should move on from him, including some fans. We talked about how Cade needed to drastically improve as a quarterback as well. So a lot of that criticism was fair. He took it on the chin. He got into the lab, so to speak, this offseason. He grinded it out, and clearly he has matured and become a really good college quarterback at this point. And that's good for our Tigers.
100%, man.
But speaking of Cade's Heisman odds, I think it's time that we hear from Mark about some betting advice that people might need. I know a lot of people do college football betting, makes the games interesting to them. So we'll be right back after a word from Mark Rogers.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, guys, you heard from Mark Rogers there. Go check out the Voice of College Football bets. You won't regret it. Got tons of great betting advice over there. I guarantee you might win a couple dollars over there, depending on how much you're betting. Plus, it makes a lot of the games fun. A lot of games that you may not watch or that you may not be very interested in. Put a little bit of money on them, whether it be the over-under, the point spread, whatever the case may be, and it makes it a little bit more exciting to watch. So you guys go check it out over there. Also support the rest of the Voice of College Football channels, and more importantly, the main channel over there with Mark Rogers. So appreciate you guys there. Go check it out. Like I said, you will not regret it. All right, before we move on to the next topic, we got 42 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. That really helps us out on these live videos. The likes, YouTube really cares about them, specifically on these live videos. So help us out with that. Get it as close to the 42 as you possibly can. And also stay tuned until the end of the show. Me and Jordan got a little special surprise for all of you guys in the live chat. We're gonna try something that we've never done on the show before. So stay tuned for that. Coming up at the end of the show, we got about 2 more segments to get through, and then we will debut that on the show. So stay tuned. All right, Jordan, this past weekend, the Clemson Tigers played Virginia. Tony Elliott came home to Death Valley for the first time since he left as OC and became the head coach at Virginia. 48 to 31 was the final score in favor of the Tigers. Virginia scored far too many points in the fourth quarter, as we've seen happen a couple times to our Tigers this weekend. But overall, a dominant performance by Clemson. Clemson was never really in danger of losing the game. Started off a little bit slow, but as soon as Virginia scored, Clemson answered, and then it kind of just snowballed from there, right? So Clemson really did get it done for that after that initial portion of the game. First couple drives didn't go so well, but outside of that, the offense performed really well. The defense performed well outside of the end of that first quarter where, gave up a couple explosive plays there, onside kick, 2-point conversion, that kind of stuff going on. But going back and watching the game, did you notice anything that we didn't kind of hit on during that post-game live video?
Yeah, I've gone back and certainly, taken it all in. I think one of the things that jumped out to me really was kind of from a defensive standpoint. I think I want to start there because we have talked about kind of the inconsistencies that we've seen from this defense through 7 weeks. With Virginia, it was kind of, I don't really know how to describe it. It didn't feel like they necessarily played poorly from a down-to-down basis, but I do think there were some things that they did that didn't make a lot of sense to me and led to some easy first downs for Virginia and probably could have potentially hurt you for more. But they didn't always execute on them. I think the starting. I'm not even talking about the fourth quarter when you had the backups in and they scored points, but that's not really what I'm getting at. I think even during the flow and the course of the game, I felt like there were some things that you did that weren't didn't necessarily make a lot of sense to me. First things first, you were very fortunate in this game that Chris Tyree for Virginia did not have a bigger game than he did. For whatever reason, it didn't feel like Clemson respected him a ton. If you guys know that name, obviously Chris Tyree was formerly a running back at Notre Dame, running back at Notre Dame, moved to wide receiver, and transferred to Virginia this past season. One of the fastest players in the sport, like legit track speed. They utilize him kind of in the slot, although we saw a lot of Malachi Fields in the slot too. I felt like you didn't really do a whole lot to account for his speed. There were a couple of times where Virginia hit you on quick outs because you had your nickel or your safety like basically lined up 10 yards off of him. But they really only hit you for a couple of those quick little outs. You had Khalil Barnes on him a lot. I didn't really understand kind of the methodology. I think against it's excusable against less explosive slot receivers, but I felt like you could have been burned really badly by Virginia this past week, and they just didn't for whatever reason. They didn't really have him run a lot of longer routes, and they didn't really do a lot to try to get him the ball in space a ton. And I think that was kind of a microcosm of how you sort of played Virginia in general. I don't feel like they necessarily respected Virginia's ability to move the ball and burn you consistently. And I think that mentality kind of seeped into how they played this game. Just a lot of sloppy play, a lot of lackadaisical, a lot of lack of urgency, I guess, is the best thing the best way to word it. I think from the top down, and I think that's part of why you had so many issues, getting set at the snap. They gave you a lot of different look. They kind of sped you up and slowed you down and did a lot of things to kind of get you off balance. You just were flat out more talented than Virginia, and you were able to execute more than that. But it could have been worse, I think. So one of the things that I saw from this team was just kind of, and it's kind of been a consistent theme from this season, is they just don't play with that motor consistently, and I don't think it's not just from a player standpoint. I feel like just how they call the game at times, it feels kind of passive. So that's one thing I do want to see a little bit more. And that's my overarching negative take about the defense, but there were a lot of positives. I thought, your defensive line played well in this game, 4 sacks, did not allow Virginia to get the run game going really at all. Did a really good job of kind of, especially after they hit you for a 9-yard gain on like the first play of the game, did a quick little pitch to Kobe Pace. But they didn't. It was very, very. They were very quick to adjust, and Virginia didn't have much going in the run game. And you did a lot to affect Anthony Calandria, but in the second level, you didn't account for the quarterback run enough, and that's kind of led to some of the times where he hit you for some big gains, and the QB draw on 3rd and 17 that should never happen. I thought your DBs played well, especially your corners. I thought they handled it extremely well. Avion Terrell was really sticky in coverage. All in all, I thought the back end was not really the issue. I think the linebackers certainly kind of took a step back after they had played a little bit better the past couple of weeks. So I just want to see more consistency from them. That's my overarching take on the defense. We've kind of, I don't really have anything to add about the offense that we didn't talk about on the recap show. So that's my long kind of take on kind of what I saw from the defense.
Yeah, no, I think, that makes a lot of sense what you're talking about on the defensive side of the ball. Sometimes it seems that they lack that killer instinct, if you will. They're just not finishing games like you want to see them finish games. The effort sometimes is lacking, to your point. And we've just seen it happen a few times this season, a few too many times, in my opinion. Definitely something that you want to see them, kind of talk about and correct in this bye week, and really kind of put an emphasis on the rest of the season of just finishing games, not playing to a scoreboard, not playing to an opponent, not playing to how well your offense is moving the ball up and down the field, right? Just playing to a standard, which is what, Dabo kind of preaches all the time, right? Playing to a standard. You're playing against Clemson every single week. And I don't think the defense has done a good job of playing to the standard at certain points in times in a lot of these games and overall for the first half of the season. Although they are playing pretty well, obviously you can't complain on a 4-sack day with 6 tackles for loss. Not saying they're out there just giving up 50+ points a game, but definitely some improvements that could be made, I think, in short order because of the talent level on this defense. This is not a defense that lacks talent really at any position group. All 3 levels of this defense have elite talent on there. So these corrections can be made in season. It's not like, well, we just don't have this piece this year. That's not the case for this Clemson defense. It's definitely there. Just got to clean up some stuff. That's all it is. Some of it's tackling, some of it's effort, some of it's seemingly playing to a scoreboard. Again, I'm not in the room. I don't know how they truly feel over there on the sideline. I know sometimes, everybody's humans. It's difficult when you're up, 38-10 to play with the same intensity that you were playing with when it was, 3-3 in the first quarter, right? I get it. Everybody's human, but you got to clean some of that stuff up because, like I said in the post-game live, later on in the season, when it matters, that stuff will creep up, and sometimes get you beat, depending on who you're playing. So got to clean that up moving forward. I completely agree with you. As far as the offense, I think they moved the ball extremely well. Cade had himself another day outside of, that really, really bad interception that he threw. But outside of that, really good decision-making. The offense was again, just moving the ball up and down the field. Really good there. Phil Maffa had himself a great day again. So overall, I think it was a pretty good game. Obviously, a highly emotional game. Got a little chippy at times between the two teams. So that was fun and interesting to watch. I think the back and forth at the end of the fourth quarter was really interesting to watch between Dabo and Tony Elliott, and Tony Elliott just refusing to give up, running tempo, scoring a touchdown, going for two, doing an onside kick, right? And then Dabo's like, oh, okay, all right. Well, I was gonna call the dogs off, but hey, Cade, first team offense, go hop back in there, and then just drops a bomb to TJ Moore down the sideline for a big time touchdown. And that was just kind of a dagger right there, just to kind of, I felt like it was a message to remind Virginia, like, hey, chill out. We can still come out here and put up as many points as we want to. We're trying to relax. So I thought that was interesting to watch them, and then kind of, Dabo kind of tip his cap to Tony Elliott for that final big, kind of busted coverage, big touchdown that Virginia scored to make it 31-48. Don't like seeing that on the scoreboard, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a, you want those backups to play better. They'd certainly need the reps, but yeah, I was less frustrated. It was frustrating in the moment, but I was less frustrated about that on the rewatch than I was, some of the things that they left out there when the starting defense was out there. I said, man, you could have gotten off the field here, or man, you could have that could have burned you against a better team,
right?
So I think this defense is kind of, they certainly have the ability, I think, and they've played at a high level at times this year, but it's just it doesn't seem like they have that motor consistently. And I don't think it's like a leadership problem or anything like that. I think you have good leaders on that defense, but you need a little bit more from a intensity and consistency standpoint. So and like you said, it was a highly contentious game. There were a lot of penalties, really uncharacteristic from this team, because they've been really good about for the most part about penalties. They've been a really disciplined football team. You had a lot of guys, tempers flare a little bit. You had Jake Brenningstool with that unnecessary block on one of Phil Maffa's big runs that erased that. Of course, you had the incident with Tristan Lay and I don't remember the Smiley kid from Virginia. That there were a lot of incidents in this game, and there was a lot of chippiness. I don't want to take too much away from that, but it certainly hurts you at times, and it helps. It erased some good plays and extended some Virginia drives. So don't do that anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not do that anymore. Clean that stuff up. I get it. Emotions run high. And this was certainly a game that was charged with emotions. Tony Elliott returning, CJ Spiller being inducted into the Ring of Honor, all that, emotions were high. So you get it, but you got to clean that stuff up. Can't allow you to, to get outside of yourself in a football game and hurt your team, because in a different game, that can be the difference between winning and losing. So, all right, guys, keep in mind Monday through Friday. Go check out Mark Rogers on the main channel, the voice of college football, for the College Football Show. Again, he does a show every week, every day during the week, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, over there talking about all things college football. Go check out Mark Rogers on the main channel and tell him the guys over on the Clemson channel sent you over there, and that would be greatly appreciated. And we got 40 people in the live chat right now. Go ahead and hit that like button for us if you have not already. We have one more segment to do tonight, guys, and then we're gonna kind of chop it up with you guys at the end, and then debut our surprise for you guys. So one more segment. Stick with us. Hit that like button if you haven't already. A couple more minutes, and we will be through with this. All right, Jordan, for the last segment of the night, we are going to talk midseason grades. We are roughly, a little bit more than halfway through the season. We're 7 games in at this point. Question before we get into this. If the question was posed to you in fall camp, one of these units would be top 10, total offense or total defense, and the other one would be way down there, like 50-ish range, I think. Would you have thought which way you would have thought that would have went? Probably the defense is top 10 and the offense is somewhere down there, 50 or so, right? And it's the complete opposite this season. I don't think coming into the season anyone would have put any sort of money on that. I certainly wouldn't have. But yeah, quick thoughts on that.
Pretty crazy, man. Yeah, just not at all how we drew it up, but honestly, it's refreshing. It's a change of pace.
Yeah, it's nice to see their offense operate at a very high level. But what we're going to do here, Jordan, is we're going to go through the various position groups on the team, and we're going to give a midseason grade and give kind of our quick overarching thoughts on how the position groups have performed to this point in time in the season. And then maybe we'll give an offense and defensive grade overall at the end, and then wrap it up with that. So starting off, I guess, on the offensive side of the ball, we will start with the wide receiver position. What's your grade for the wide receivers thus far, 7 games into this 2024 season?
I mean, I don't think there's another grade you can give it other than an A. I think this wide receiver room has been just about everything that you could have hoped. And really, I'd give it an A+ if it wasn't for the Georgia game. But I don't even think that was all their fault. You didn't really have all of your best guys playing when the game was still in question. Wide receiver A pretty easily for me. Been arguably the best group on the team, and you've just had multiple guys step up at different points this year. They're explosive. They're reliable hands. They haven't had an issue, a real issue with drops. They're blocking the best we've seen from a blocking standpoint in a long time with this group. Just everything you could ask for in a wide receiver room. They're deep. You have a lot of multiple options, diversity in body types, length, speed, size. It's just a really good group, man. I give it an A right now.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. I would give them, honestly, I'd probably give them an A+ right now. I know the Georgia game, but I'm going to give them the A+. And my reasoning for it is the week-to-week production with sustaining all the injuries that they have had so far this season. Tyler Brown's been out at times. Brian Wesco's been out at times. Troy Stelato's been out at times. Adam Randall's been out at times. Antonio Williams has been banged up at times. Like literally almost everybody in the wide receiver room has been banged up from time to time this season. And the production has been top notch every single week, obviously outside of the Georgia game. So I'm going to roll with an A+ for the wide receiver group. Rolling right along into the tight end group. I think the tight ends have been great this season. Jake Brenningstool's been a big part of the offense. His pass catching has been pretty elite, I think. I think it's 2 balls at this point that he's caught on his hip and then turned them into touchdowns, which is like it's the craziest catch to watch him do. But it's happened on 2 separate occasions. It kind of makes you tense up for a minute, and then you notice that he catches it and turns it into a big play. Also, the blocking, the physicality that the tight ends are playing with this year, I think is unmatched. They're blocking downfield. They're really performing well there. So I'm going to give the tight end group a B+.
All right, I am a little bit higher. I'm going to go A-. They've been, but we're kind of in the same range. I think Jake Brenningstool has been obviously one of your best weapons this season. The blocking has certainly been there from guys like Olsen, Pat Henry, who's really stepped up, and even Josh Sapp. He hasn't been as involved much in the passing game, but when he's out there, he is blocking. I think this is a really good group that you have right now, and you have pretty good consistency week to week. A- for me. Only thing I'll say is, Jake, he's had a couple of drops at times that you're just kind of like, okay, you gotta make that play. But other than that, and they've been really, really good. So yeah, A- on, borderline A, close to A for me, but I'm gonna say A- because some of the drops.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see A-. I almost went there, but I dropped it down to a B+. All right, next, QB room. More specifically, we're just talking about one player at this point. Quarterback Cade Klubnik. What's your grade for him so far? 7 games through the season, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Another theme. I'm going with an A. Just especially within the context of where we thought he needed to be this season and where he is. He's greatly exceeded expectations. He's playing really high level football right now, taking care of the football, hitting big plays. He's not, and even when he misses them, he just keeps plugging along, and he has a very short memory, and that's really good. And it hasn't, whenever he's had a slow start or the rare 3 times he's thrown an interception, it has not affected him. And so he's operating this offense at a really high level. Got to go with an A. Just been really pleased with him. We've already talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with A for Cade Klubnik. I think he's been absolutely spectacular this season. The biggest things I think that stand out for me is Cade's how he maneuvers in the pocket and his decision making this year. He is really taking care of the football. He's using his feet when he needs to. And the other big thing I think that you hit on is that short memory that he has. When he makes a bad play, it looks like it doesn't faze him at all. He's right back in it. He's ready to go the next. If it's a turnover, he's ready to go the next drive. If he misses a throw, he's right back in it. Hey, next play, getting the signals in. You can tell he is leading that offense at it very confidently. You can just see the way that he operates on the field, the way that the players around him are responding to him. You can tell that he's got full command of that offense and really the team overall. He's garnered a lot of respect there, and his improvement is absolutely insane. So definitely an A there. All right, moving on to offensive line. This is another group, man. Much like Cade Klubnik, if you would have asked us back in fall camp that 7 games through the season, this offensive line would have only given up 6 sacks. After last season, I would have told you, just like you said before, you're probably on something. I don't know what you're taking, but it sounds amazing. I'm glad you're living a happy life. But this offensive line and what Matt Luke has been able to do with these guys, how they've been transformed. I mean, these dudes are nasty out there. They're finishing blocks. They're pushing piles. They're just operating at a very high level. You can tell it's rubbing off on Cade with the confidence that he has in these guys. Like I said, only giving up 6 sacks so far this season, opening up massive holes for film off at a run through. I got to give the offensive line an A+, man. I got to do it. I know they have work to do. I know they're not perfect, but from where they've come from and the progress they made, I got to go A+ for the offensive line.
I'm right with you. A+. I think, especially when you consider where they've come from. Last season, just very, very inconsistent, very unreliable at times. Obviously, injuries have played a part in that, but just all of the guys that you brought back, they are playing like the best football of their career. Tristan Lay has stepped in as your true left tackle. We were worried. We were like, okay, this is kind of his. It seems like it's going to be his show this year. Is he really going to step into that role? Ryan Linthicum has exceeded all of my expectations at center. And we had some, even more questions about him because of how little football he's played. This group is playing really, really well, confident, physical. They play to the whistle and beyond sometimes.
They're out there getting a little,
they toe the line a little bit.
They're downfield blocking. They're getting a little bit extra.
That's why Virginia was getting mad at times this past week. So they have taken on the personality of their position coach, and I think that I wanted to see that, but I didn't expect it to parlay into the results that we've seen so far. You mentioned that you've given up 6 sacks on the year, and really, you could probably charge like half of them to like coverage sacks. I know that the two Georgia got were definitely coverage sacks. Cade holding the ball too long. They just have played at a really high level, very, very little lapses. Run blocking, this team is one of the best in the country, one of the best rushing offenses in the country. Just week to week, just putting it on. And they've been the driving force behind just the balance that this offense has been able to have. And even against and I think even against Georgia, I thought they held up extremely well, especially in pass protection. So offensive line A+. And they again like you said, they're not perfect. But they are miles beyond what I thought to expect from this group. In year one under Matt Luke, and it kind of shows you, if anything, it's like, man, why didn't we hire a guy like him sooner? Why have we, like Clemson? We've always had this ability. Like there's nothing about Clemson in particular that made it that we shouldn't be able to have good offensive lines. Like there's really no excuse, especially this far into, from a Dabo Swinney standpoint, this far into your tenure. Like you've won 2 national championships. Like you could go get anybody you want to coach your offensive line, and you can, and you are in a geographical footprint to get really talented offensive linemen.
And that's the thing is, like, Clemson's recruited well at offensive line. There's blue chips. Like, I think when we talked about it, because we've talked about this a lot on this channel. When we talked about it, I don't know if people really believed like all the blue chip talent that was stacked up in there, and it wasn't translating to the field. And as uncomfortable as it might be to say, but that's an indictment on the coaching. Because you get a guy in here like Matt Luke, a guy that has a pedigree of producing high-level offensive linemen, first-round offensive linemen, NFL caliber guys, and suddenly he's with them for what's Matt Luke been there for now? What did he get there in January? January. So he's been there 10 months, and look at him. They're not even recognizable.
With basically the same guys.
Literally the same guys. Literally the same guys.
It's not like we went out, as Jay says, it's not like Clemson went out and got a bunch of transfers, and they tried to.
Yeah, the personnel is the same. Yeah, they tried to get a few, but the personnel is the same. The only guy we lost was Will Putnam. And then, Ryan Lithicum slides in, has done a great job. But you're right. They've taken on the personality of their coach, and it shows that Clemson could have always been doing it. We've talked about this so many times, Jordan, about how it's never made sense for us as fans, as closely as we watch Clemson, for us to not have elite offensive line play. With the way that Clemson's built through the trenches. That's how Dabo Swinney's always built the team. And it just never made sense why our offensive line never quite got to that level. But now we have an elite coach. Hopefully we have him for an extended amount of time, because he is doing a heck of a job with the talent that he has on that offensive line, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just excited to see them continue to grow. And the cool thing is from what from what they've said, they only expect to lose Marcus
Tate.
Like,
He's the only guy that is officially out of eligibility after this season. Everybody else, whether they come back or not, everybody else has the ability to come back next season.
Yeah.
Outside of Marcus.
Even Walker Parks, who's been here forever.
Which, when that was brought up a couple weeks ago, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I had always been under the impression he was gone.
I had no idea he had another year of eligibility, but apparently he does. So I guess because of all the season-ending injuries and stuff that he's had, maybe that's why. But I had no idea that Walker Parks had another year of eligibility. And I welcome him coming back. I hope he does.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, we're in agreement. All offensive line, A+.
Yeah, sure. A++ on the offensive line. Shout out Matt Luke. Thank you so much for coming to Clemson. Please stay a while.
Yes, please. Please.
All right, moving right along. Yeah, last position group for the offense, running back. You got Phil Maffa obviously taking the bulk of the snaps. Jay Haynes, Keith Adams Jr. Working in there as well. What's your grade so far for our running back group?
Yeah, I don't have too many complaints from this group. Running back is always kind of it's really hard to have bad running back play. I'll say that, especially when your offensive line is blocking the way they have. But Phil Maffa has been great. He's stepped into, as the bell cow running back, really, really well. And I've seen enough from the backups, Jay Haynes, Keith Adams Jr. in particular. I think you're in pretty good shape. I'm gonna go A- to an A. They're honestly, and I think Phil Maffa has stepped up a really good deal in pass protection. He's had a couple of moments here or there, but I think he's grown a lot in that aspect over his time. And credit, that's credit to CJ Spiller as his position coach. I feel like he's kind of taken on that role a little bit more. But Phil, he's been patient. He's been patient. He's been powerful, and just a load for teams to have to deal with. And he's even had a couple of times where he's caught the ball out of the backfield. Now, obviously, he's not the threat that Will Shipley was, and nobody expected him to be. I don't have too many complaints about the running back room. They've been pretty strong. And Phil Maffa certainly being the overwhelming force in that group.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Dude, it's so fun to watch Phil Maffa just body these safeties and these defensive backs when they try to tackle him. It's becoming one of my favorite things to do on Saturdays is just try to decide which guy on the defense is going to get run over by Phil Maffa that day. So that's been a lot of fun for me on Saturdays. I agree with you. I'm going to go A- for the running back room. I think we're in great hands. Love Phil Maffa. Obviously the bell cow. He's well over 600 yards on the season. I think he's got 6 touchdowns or something like that.
Yep.
6 touchdowns.
Running about 7 yards per clip.
Yeah, I mean, just really really, really good. He is an unstoppable force when he gets going. I think lots of defensive backs have figured that out this season. Just how tough he is, and linebackers for that matter, have figured out just how tough he is to get on the ground once he gets rolling. He is not a go down on contact guy at all. And I think behind him, to your point, you've seen what Jay Haynes has done in spurts this season. Watching Keith Adams just bully the Wake Forest defense after Phil Maffa was done for the day was one of my favorite things to watch as well. Because I think they thought that, number 7's finally on the sideline. We could take a breather. And then, here comes number 19, just, looking like a fresher version of number 7 on the field, still cracking heads. So I think that running back room is in good shape long term, even after we obviously lose Phil Maffa this season. But long term, I think we're in good shape as well. So I'm with you so far this season. I'm going to go A-. All right, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball, starting with the defensive tackle room. This might be the single best position group on this defense. These dudes roll in and out, play after play. I mean, you can name guys and keep naming guys, and you won't do the defensive tackle room justice. Capehart, Peyton Page, Trey Williams, the list just goes on and on of these guys that they just roll in there. They all look like they got the same body type, massive individuals, and they wreak havoc on the interior of those offensive lines. And they've really been setting the tone as far as the running game. Like Clemson has shut down running game after running game week in and week out. And a big portion of that is this defensive tackle group and the penetration that they get in the interior of those offensive lines. So I'm gonna go an A for the defensive tackle group so far this season. I think they've played exactly how we expected them to play so far this season. They've definitely lived up to the billing, and they're definitely the anchor, I feel, of that defense. That they're that consistent piece that what you're going to get play in and play out. Those are those guys that are rolling out there that you can really count on.
Yeah, I'm with you. A for me. They've been the most consistent part. They've shown in week to week. I won't, and the only thing that's keeping me from A+, they are not like, you don't have like super dominant pass rushers, and they
Right.
were, again, they're not always, as defensive tackles, you're not really asked to do that a lot. But you've had some guys in the past that were a little bit more a little bit more suited in that role. Ruka Rororo and Brian Bersee in the past were really good pass rushers as defensive tackles. But
Dexter
I think
was a guy that was good at that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this group is solid. They are really, really tough to move, really, really massive. They use their size well. They don't get blown off the ball very much for obvious reasons. They're the anchor of this defense. So I'm gonna go A. They've been the best part of your team so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely best part of the defense. All right, moving right along to the defensive edge position. Obviously, Peter Woods has been injured some this season, so we haven't seen him on the field quite as much as we thought we would. But when on the field, I think he's performed pretty well. Obviously, opposite TJ Parker, you've seen a lot of guys have to step up due to the depth situations that we brought up this season coming into the season. That's definitely reared its head at times this season, but you've seen guys step up like AJ Hoffler, Cade Denoff has played quality snaps. Jaheim Lawson has been a guy that has really started to step up as the season's going on. So what's your thoughts on the defensive end position and how they've performed through 7 games this season?
Yeah, I think they've been fine mostly. I'm gonna go B-. I think obviously Peter Woods has, when he's healthy, is phenomenal. I think TJ has really stepped his game up the past few weeks, but you just haven't had you certainly haven't had the depth, and you certainly have not gotten the pass rush that you've had in years past. And I think they're starting to figure some things out there. But early in the season, you weren't getting a lot of pressure, and certainly you got burned a couple of times in the run game too, as far as setting the edge.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it happened a lot against Georgia, and Stanford burned you a good bit. But they've settled in. They've had they've kind of figured out their pecking order and their depth chart there. And getting Peter Woods back was and healthy certainly was a massive boost for this group. But I think that they've been fine. But I think there's a lot of room for them to grow. So that's the good thing as you get more of those young guys in. We talked about how Jaheim Lawson is starting to step his game up. AJ Hoffler, I've been banging the drum for him, but he clearly still has some growth to do. So continuing to get him in the game, I think is going to be massive, because certainly you're going to need him down the road. But yeah, they've been fine. I'm gonna go B-, but they have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. B-. Definitely some work to do in that room. Jaheim Lawson has been kind of like that bright spot as far as the young guy stepping up, I think, so far this season. Really developed into quite a guy over there. But, getting Peter Woods back, I think, has obviously – you've seen the effect of Peter Woods since coming back off of that injury where he got that ridiculous cut block that could have been much worse. Thankfully, it only took a couple games from him. It could have took a lot more. It could have took a season from Peter Woods. So, thankfully, it didn't take more, and his presence has been felt since he's been back. It's definitely been a better edge group with him in there. And it's crazy, man. Like, you see that guy on the field, he looks like a D tackle through and through, but somehow he's still athletic and quick enough to play that edge position. And that is amazing because he is a load, man. That is a big dude.
You see him in a 2-point stance and doing swim moves and all. I'm like, what in the world? Like, they got him standing up on the edge. I'm like, at 300.
You got big number 11 just standing up on the edge. I'm like, what in the world, dude? It don't look right.
Like, as a tackle, like lining up, getting in your stance and seeing that, like, what do you do?
I don't know, because he's quick. And then he could just bull rush right through you and just take you to the quarterback as well.
Yeah,
which most defensive ends can't. Right? They tend to use their speed and their athleticism in the pass rushing, but Peter Woods has got both of it. And love to see that guy out there playing. He's so much fun to watch. Glad he's back in the rotation, and that's definitely been a shot in the arm for this defense since he's been back. But let's move right along. Linebacker position. I'm going to be honest, Jordan. I've been a little underwhelmed with our linebackers so far this season. We thought coming into this season they could be one of the better linebacker groups in the country, and although they've played like that at times, they're just been wildly inconsistent so far this season for me, and a bit underwhelming. Some of the missed tackles, some of the missed assignments, just the inconsistent play. I mean, there's plays where you see Barrett Carter and Wade Woodaz, and they flash, and you're like, yes, there it is. That's what we're talking about. And then other times it'll leave you scratching your head like, what is going on? Like, these are veteran guys. They know this defense in and out. Like, these mistakes should not be happening. So for that, I'm going to go for a C on the linebackers. I'm going to be a little harsh with them, but I think that's the grade they've earned so far this season. Now, they have the ability to be an A in the group. But they just gotta build consistency, and they've done it at times, but it just hasn't been quite as consistent as I wanted to be. So I'm gonna go C. I'll go C+.
Okay, I was going to go. I was going to be a little bit more positive than you, but it was going to be C+.
Yeah.
But for all the reasons you mentioned, just the consistency hasn't always been there. There's been a lack of intensity at times, late, kind of, arm tackling at times and being slow, filling gaps. Like, it hasn't been week to week, you're not really sure what you're going to get. And, that's disappointing really from two guys that have, been in the program and been in this defense a long time. So, but I'm going to go C+, because I think, really mainly that plus is for Sammy Brown, because when he's been out there, he's been a lot of fun.
He is fun to watch, man. That dude's a weapon, man.
And you also and I can't, and they're also getting dinged because of there's not a lot of depth there, and the fact that Barrett and Wade are playing this many snaps, they don't feel confident in these guys really.
So there's pretty much no depth.
Yeah,
at the linebacker position. But you've obviously had the season-ending injury and all that at that position group too.
Yeah.
So that went into some of the depth being limited.
Yeah, Kobe was that next guy up.
So. Yeah, Kobe was gonna get a lot of playing time this year, and unfortunately, he tears his ACL and you're going for the season. So, but yeah. I think we're in agreement there. C+ for the linebacker group. I was at a C, but I changed my mind. I bumped it up to a C+. But moving right along, cornerback group. What's your thoughts on how they've played to this point in the season?
Yeah, I think they've kind of. I think they've played better than maybe some of the at some points they may have looked. I think they've gotten sold a little bit. At times by not just, a combination of, the defensive line not always getting pressure, and also sometimes your safety help not being there. I think they've actually been pretty solid, especially considering you don't have, you're trying to replace a first round corner. And you've had some young guys step up, and you've had a couple of guys injured. I'm going to go B+. I think they've actually been pretty good. Avion Terrell has obviously been really good. I think Jaden Lucas has been a lot better than some of the fan base seems to think. I think he's actually been
a lot
really
better
good.
as of late. He had a rough patch there. I get some of the criticism, but
I also think at times, some of the plays that that have been had on Jaden haven't been like just busts.
Yeah.
The Florida State game was not good for him. He did not play well. But I think other times he'd been in position and guys just made plays. He's kind of been unlucky in that aspect. So I think your two starters have been pretty good, and Avion Terrell and Jaden Lucas. And Ashton Hampton has gotten in and flashed a good bit. He hasn't been perfect. I think Shelton Lewis feels like a step slow to me. I don't think he's completely healthy, but I think he's given a lot. And I think he's this past week I thought he settled in a little bit more. I'm watching him, and he doesn't seem as fluid as he was last year, and I think it's partly from the injury that he was dealing with, heading into the season. That's just my conspiracy theory. I don't have any insider knowledge about that, but he does not look like 100% to me. So it's hard to ding this cornerback room too much, because you have a lot of young pieces that I think are really talented, and I think your starters are actually playing pretty well. So B+ for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'll go B+ for the cornerback group. I think there's been some bright spots. Obviously, you talked about Jaden Lucas and some of his plays, and although I think he had that rough patch there, as of late, I think he's rebounded really nicely and started to play well. So there's a reason they keep running him out there, and it's not because they just like Jaden Lucas better. So moving on, the safety group, R.J. Mickens has been – I think we talked about this in the last post game about just how good R.J. Mickens has been so far this season. He really is kind of that glue back there. He's that guy just operating at a very high level, much like I talked about the defensive tackles. He's that guy that what you're going to get play in and play out, game in and game out. I think he's played really, really well. So I'll give the safeties a B+ as well.
Okay, I think this is the one we're going to have the most differing opinion I'm going B- to C+ to B-. And I think if you didn't have RJ Mickens playing so well, this would be the grade would be a little bit worse.
Yeah.
I just have not been really pleased with. I'm including nickel. I'm going to include nickel in here for this discussion.
Yeah, I got you.
I am not. Have not. It's been really inconsistent from the guys outside of that. I think you have some talent there.
Yeah.
But Kylan Griffin has played at times. He started early in the year and he did not play well.
That nickel position has kind of been a struggle for Clemson.
Yeah.
They rotated a few guys in and out, and
it has not been.
Nobody's really looking good.
No, Khalil Barnes he's definitely not been as effective this year, and that they moved him to safety, and then you had Sherrod Koval step in, and I think he's got to grow into that role a little bit because he's more of a downhill player. Kind of for some of the similar reasons that Andrew Makuba had struggles when he was here at that position. And Tyler Venables has gotten in at times. He is not. I don't think he's. I think he's a step slower than he used to be. I just there hasn't been a lot exciting about this group. I think Ricardo Jones has flashed when he's gotten out there. I'm really excited about him. But I don't know. You just have not. There has not been a whole lot of depth. The cream hasn't really risen to the top yet in that group outside of RJ Mickens.
Sherrod Cole was kind of a guy that he was looking really good last year, and then obviously that big injury and hasn't really looked the same since. Part of that can be just working back after injury. Some of that's a mental game, but I still believe in Sherrod Cole. I think he's a really good player. Struggled at times this season, but I think he's going to be really good. I'm still a big.
Yeah, me too. I think he's going to grow into this role. So I'm not down on Sherrod Cole, but he was not the guy initially, and so they had to move him. They didn't have to move him, but he had to step up and take more snaps. When they moved Khalil Barnes, and so I think. The safeties, like for me, I think the safeties and, the linebackers probably, I would say, have the most to improve on, but they are they both very easily could reach that benchmark. If the necessary, progression is taken. So, I want to preface that, I'm not down on the safeties as far as the outlook.
Yeah, no.
You just have not gotten consistency outside of your, arguably one of the best players on your defense. So, I want to see more from them. And I think Khalil Barnes, once he settles in, I think he'll be fine. He's a really talented football player. He's going to figure it out.
He seems to be kind of having that sophomore slump, if you will. He had such a dynamic breakout season last year. Really, stormed onto the scene, played great, had an amazing freshman campaign, and this year, he's obviously going through some growing pains. And it's very evident. But again, a really good player. You expect that he'll rebound at some point in time and start looking a little bit closer to what he could be. Koval, already mentioned him, same thing. I probably gave a little bit too much love to RJ Mickens in the grade, but yeah, I'll stick with it. RJ
Mickens is really good. I don't blame you, man. I love RJ Mickens.
Good, man. I like
we are an RJ Mickens fan support group. Support group sounds negative. Fan club, whatever you want to call
club. it. Yeah. I'm leading the RJ Mickens fan club, president of the fan club. Love watching that dude play, man. He just flies all over the field, puts his body on the line. He's all over the place.
Yeah, he's one of your leaders, man. He's been here a long time. He's that old. He's like the salty dog.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. All right, special teams, Jordan. What's your grade?
Special teams, I'm going with C. It's been fine. It's
man.
past. Yeah.
It's man.
It hasn't been, Nolan Hooser has been really consistent. You haven't really asked him to do much, so I can't really give him like a significantly high grade. He's made the layups, which is more than we could say last year. And so but you haven't really asked him to hit like any long field goals. So, until we see that, like, I can't give him like a much higher grade. Punter, I've been pretty disappointed with, but it hasn't lost you any football games. And the return game has just been, it's been whatever.
Non-existent almost.
Yeah. And then, your coverage units, you haven't given up any like really big returns. So passing, good grade on that. Like you've had a lot of touchbacks this year because, Robert Gunn is basically booting it out of the end zone every time. So that's good. That's been the philosophy around here a long time. When you have a kicker that can get it out of the end zone, just kick it out of the end zone. No reason to give the other team an opportunity to get plus field position or anything like that. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up this segment. Quick overall grade for offense and defense. What do you got?
Offense has got to be an A, especially if you average the grades out.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an A. Been really, really good. Can't give them an A+ because of the Georgia game, but I can't say that it's a completely different offense than the one that played against Georgia, because that seems like a little bit of a cop out. But you certainly you did not put out your best players and the best personnel.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And call your best, stuff in that game.
Right.
It doesn't seem right.
Look, the Georgia game is what it is. Not excusing it. It was absolutely a terrible game. But this offense has always also gone out, 4 or 5 other times now and put up over 500 yards of offense. And yes, we can talk about who they're playing and all that stuff matters. I understand. But it's still 500 yards of total offense. So, much improved. I'm with you. A on the offense. What you got for defense?
Defense, going with a B-. Like they've gotten the job done, every week, but they've certainly left a lot out there, and there's a lot that they could improve on. Your offense has been so good, your defense has not been asked to really win you a football game, and that's that's really good. But B- because they've had their moments of dominance and brilliance, they getting stops, and they've done a really great job at forcing turnovers. That's one thing we didn't really talk about. This team has been really good about creating turnovers this year. And when you're a team that isn't always going to get 3 and outs, that's really good. B-. Like this defense week to week, I think there is a baseline level of performance, but the consistency of getting them from being capable to great to elite, it's that those lines are being crossed back and forth week to week. Like sometimes they're at and sometimes quarter to quarter when they want to play their best football. So B- for me, they've been fine, but I think there's a lot of room to grow there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Defense could be a lot better. I agree with the B-. I think that's a fair grade for them overall. Definitely some areas of improvement. I think we outlined those already. Certainly some stuff to focus on for them in the bye week, as is the offense. You got to keep improving. This is a good time for Clemson to take a step back, self-scout, try to find some tendencies on both sides of the ball, try to mix those things up and get better for that home stretch, right? We still got 5 games left in the regular season, but we're 5-0 in the conference, in conference play. We've definitely set ourselves up to be exactly where we need to be at this point in time in the season. Now it's on to November. It's time to really show what you got. So, couple tougher games coming up, I think, for Clemson, and we'll see how it shakes out. You got Louisville. You're on the road at Virginia Tech. You play Pitt. South Carolina starting to look like a okay team. It's hard to say, but no, I'm just kidding. They're looking pretty good as well. So, got a lot in front of us, a lot of football.
What Wet Sox just put in that Kennesaw State is about to beat Liberty. I saw they were up 14-7, like in the second quarter, but I was not. That is so funny.
Shout out Kennesaw State.
I'm so happy too because Liberty was one of those teams that like nobody was talking. Well, there's still 11 minutes left. Let me chill. Okay, so let me not do the victory dance yet. But they are winning 24-17 with the ball late in the fourth quarter. Because Liberty was one of those teams that like nobody knew what to do with because they play one of the worst schedules and like regardless of them being a G5, like they play one of the worst schedules in college football, but they're good. They're a good team, but they dominated their schedule last year but they had no business being in a New Year's Six bowl and that got shown. And then, so the question was in the 12-team playoff, like, what if they just ran through their schedule and they were the ones to get the G5 bid over, like, say, like an 11-1 or 12-1, American champion or whatever. Like that was going to be the debate, and if they had gotten it over. Probably a better G5, a more deserving G5 team, I would have been upset. So I'm hoping Kennesaw State pulls this out because, and Liberty's they've been skirting by all season. Like they nearly lost to FIU a couple weeks ago. Like they're 5-0, but they have not been a dominant 5-0. But yeah, that's my long spiel. All right. Get into it.
All right. That will do it for the planned portion of the show tonight, guys. We got 29 people in the live chat right now. Thanks so much for hanging out with us all the way till the end. Little over an hour and a half into the show. But the time has come, guys. We're going to debut a new thing on the channel. We're going to see how it goes. If you guys like it, we may continue to do it. It just all depends on how it goes. So we're going to do our normal thing, where we get into the comment section and we chop it up with you guys, answer your questions, respond to your comments, all of that stuff like we normally do. But the caveat to that is we're going to post the StreamYard link. And if anybody wants to come on as a caller, so we're gonna kind of float out a call-in portion of the show here. So I'll go ahead and post the StreamYard link in the chat right there. So go ahead and click that link if you want to be a caller on the All In Show, and we'll bring you in, hear what you guys got to say, and then move on to the next caller. We'll see how many people we get in here. But in the meantime, we'll go ahead and start chopping it up with you guys in the comments section.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Feel free to click the link if you want to call in. No pressure. And you don't have to, be on camera necessarily. Yeah. So if you want to, but you don't have to.
Yeah. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to.
All right. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. John says the defense got so used to getting their backs up after turnovers and 3 and outs. This is totally new experience for them. Yeah, that's definitely a part of it. This defense has certainly gotten the short end of the stick the past few seasons, and having an offense that is actually scoring points and taking pressure off them that's certainly
it's a little weird for them.
Yeah, there's guys on this roster that most of the guys on this roster aren't used to that.
Yeah, they've had three long seasons of just trying to hang on.
Yep. TBP Sports says we got beat just as bad as Texas did, and Texas was at home. I mean, yeah, in a lot of ways, Texas was certainly looked just as mortal against Georgia's defense as Clemson did.
That's
so I mean that is a good point. Quinn Ewers certainly didn't look like himself. He certainly didn't have himself. He got benched.
Yeah, I was about to say that the Georgia defense looked so good that Texas started having a quarterback crisis. So bouncing back and forth between yours and Manning over there. So that Georgia defense certainly made that Texas offense look mortal for probably the first time this season, because they had just been blowing the doors off of everybody. That offense was up and down the field, scoring 1,000,000 points. Even when Quinn Ewers was out, Manning was in there just blowing the doors off of people. So definitely made them look mortal. Definitely made them look like a not good offense at all. They could not move the ball very effectively against that Georgia defense.
No, they couldn't. Eric says, did y'all talk about Colin Lacey? Yeah, I was. If you guys saw me looking at my phone during the show, that was one of the alerts that I got. Louisville wide receiver Colin Lacey announced about 40 minutes ago. Well, it was announced. He didn't announce it, but it was announced that he would be redshirting the rest of the season for Louisville. That's massive, man. He's been one of their more dynamic playmakers. And of course, you play them next Saturday. I have a lot of opinions. We've talked about this whole opting out, this thing, and this redshirting phenomenon that's starting to trickle its way into college sports.
It's the new I'm not playing in the bowl game.
Yeah,
you remember when that was a new groundbreaking thing.
There were people that were worried with this one, with the elimination of the one-time transfer rules and all of that this was going to be something that happened. When a team is out of playoff contention, they're gonna, some of their best guys will just want to sit out the rest of the year. You preserve a year of eligibility. And
as a coaching staff, you have no choice. They can do whatever they want.
I think the only thing you can do if you're a coach and you don't like it, you can honor, you can't make them play, but you can say, okay, well, you won't have a spot on the team next year. But then but all that does is that means they're going to transfer, and most of them are doing it because they have the intention of transferring anyway.
The most you could do as a college coach right now in the parameters of the rules, right, is essentially kick them off the team, right?
Yep.
So they lose the privileges of being a football player, right?
Right. So they can't practice with the team.
You don't get to go in the training room. You don't get to practice with the team. You don't get to have the nutritionist, all the fancy meals that the football players get. Live in the football dorms, all that goes away. That's really the only power that the coaching staffs have now is. They could take that away if they decide to set themselves down in redshirt. But outside of that, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. But one thing about this Colin Lacey situation that it was reported that Louisville is actually working to have him back next year, which is wild to me. That's so. Louisville has certainly, with how they've operated in this era of college football, they've been pretty. They've kind of dove headfirst into it from an NIL standpoint, transfer portal standpoint. So it's okay, they're. If you want a red shirt, that's fine, and let's get a deal done so you'll be back here next year, giving in, but you can still be a part of the team and take advantage of all the stuff that comes with being a student athlete.
You can't do that, man. Once you set that precedence, anything goes at that point. I think you lose all authority on your team at that point. And there's got to be a certain level of, authority on a team between a coach and the players. I don't. That's not how I would operate, but Louisville can do it however they want. I guarantee you he transfers anyway, no matter how much you try to appease him. He's gone.
Yeah, it's so weird, man. I've never.
He may lead Louisville on right now and be like, yeah. There's a possibility I come back. Yeah, let's see what we can do. You know exactly what's going to happen once the season's over. He's going to bounce right up out of there.
And for all you know, behind the scenes, he's driving up. He's just driving up his value.
Yeah. He's just driving up his value. He's going to use your offers to garner more money from some other school, and he's just leading you on right now. Now, I don't know this guy. He could not be doing this. I'm just speaking in general to what could happen out there in college football, right? He's just going to lead Louisville on, right? And be like, I might come back, so he can keep all those things that I just mentioned, all those benefits that comes with being a part of a college football team at a major program.
Yep. And there's not really much the schools, or like they're kind of at the mercy right now. It's really it is a very interesting time in college athletics.
It's a weird time in college football, man. It's getting weird out here. You got starting quarterbacks quitting, talking about I didn't get paid my NIL money. The school saying they did. It's crazy times we live in, man. Crazy times.
Absolutely. I started a couple of questions from earlier in the show that I wanted to hit. Clemson football kickoff asked about Jordan Young. I'm sure he's in reference to some of the predictions that have come in for Clemson lately. All I can say is I think Clemson has done a really good job at staving off the NC State push. I said back in June, July, when the NC State love was really, really starting to catch steam and get a lot of smoke to it. Where I've always felt like Jordan Young, as a guy, I don't think this is going to stick, and he hasn't even committed. But I don't think it's going to stay this way. I don't. It was kind of a gut feeling. I do know people in that at Monroe, but I just never felt like I felt like Clemson was always going to be in it. And now you're at a point where I think he's slated to commit. I believe this November 2nd, I think is the date that's set right now. So just a little over a week out. I think you're in pretty good shape right now. So we'll see we'll see whether or not you cross the finish line, because a lot can happen. Jeremiah's Payne asked, what are the chances Garrett Riley leaves for a head coaching position? Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard to put a number on that. What I do know internally, they love him. I think Clemson would do anything to keep him around. And I think he really loves it here. Him and his family. That doesn't mean I think he's going to be a Clemson lifer and he's going to stay forever. But
no,
I think the chances are pretty good. This far out right now that you have him in 2025.
Yeah,
as your offensive coordinator.
I agree. I think he'll be here next year. Now, if they come with some sort of ridiculous job opportunity that you can't turn down, then obviously that'll be a tough decision that he'll have to make, and that's really up to him. I don't know what Garrett Riley thinks. Does Garrett Riley think he's ready to be a head coach? Everybody assumes that Garrett Riley's ready to be a head coach right now, but I don't know that. Only Garrett Riley knows if he feels like that he's ready to dive headfirst and lead a major college football program. And then I'm sure it'll be dependent on what opportunities are out there. So, like you said, it's hard to say, but I think it's more likely that he's back in 2025 than not likely right now. That could change. Who knows? Yeah. But at least we still got him under contract in 2025, which in the world of college football means absolutely nothing.
Yep. I'm with you. And I think, people have been kind of anxious because the ECU job opened up, and obviously the Rileys have history there. Both Rileys have history there. But I don't think that's I don't think that's too much of a concern. I don't think Clemson is too worried. And honestly, what ECU would pay him, considering he's he's the second or most highest paid offensive coordinator in the country, like the number that ECU would get. I don't remember what Mike Houston was getting, but it's not going to be a substantial upgrade in salary. So. Yeah, I think chances are right now, this far out, that you have him in 2025. And I think, this is just me from a me standpoint. Like if I were him, like, man, I would want to see, Cade Klubnik's career through at the very least. If you get him back next year, which right now, I expect that you'll have Cade Klubnik back next year, but he is playing really, really well. So, maybe things, change.
Yeah, maybe if the stock goes high enough.
Yeah. But right now, they expect him back, and I think that you expect a lot of this offense to be back. I think it's more likely that you have him next year. All right, those were some of the old ones I starred. Let's get some newer ones. Jay asks, do you think Clemson is the 9th best team in the country, if not better or worse? I think Clemson is, from a resume and deserving standpoint, I think they're right where they should be. They have a good record. They've blown everybody out, save for the first, the top 2 team they played. But the competition hasn't been great. So like, I can't put them like in the top 5 from a resume standpoint. I do think they are better than the 9th. They are better than the 9th team in the country.
Yeah.
But again, I think, this stretch coming up will tell us a lot.
Looking at the
I can't say it with full definitiveness that I think they're better than the 9th team, but right now I tentatively think so.
Yeah,
I think they're better than the 9th team in the country.
I mean, looking at the teams in front of them, there are probably some teams on there that I would pick Clemson to beat right now.
Yeah,
but like I think they're properly rated right now. Yeah. All things considered, when you look at the teams and the programs in front of them and their records and who they've had on their schedule to this point, I don't think Clemson's getting disrespected in any way. Like I think they're right about where they should be. And the ball's in their court, right? They control that's the great part of where Clemson is right now is they control their own destiny. 5-0 in the conference. All they got to do is go out there and take care of business, and they will be in the playoffs. All you got to do.
Yep. 100%. Let's see. Tiger Fan 24 says there's only 5 to 6 bigger programs in Clemson when it comes to coordinators. We've been in the top 5 for highest paid on both sides of the ball for a decade. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that makes it, beyond just having a culture that makes it where coaches want to coach here. I mean, you not only have you fostered that culture, but Clemson has consistently been, especially in the last decade, they've been, one of the highest in terms of staff payroll. And with the elimination of, staff limits in terms of numbers and all of that, Clemson is as primed as anybody in the country to take advantage of that. They take care of their coordinators. I think that's a great point, and it's something another data point in your favor that suggests that you'll have Garrett Riley in Clemson next year.
People here, guys. Just real quick. If you weren't in here before, I posted the StreamYard link. So if anybody wants to come on and ask me and Jordan a question or just, pop on for a second and say hi. StreamYard link's right there. You guys are more than welcome to pop on and hang out with us.
Yep, absolutely. John asks, John says, I agree with most of the ratings. Craven and Pookie, no ball. Well, thank you, John.
Hey, appreciate that. A little bit. Kind of. Won a couple games.
All right. Tiggs asks, has the defense backslid a bit lately? Well, compared to how they played the rest of the year, I mean, no. If you were comparing this year to last year, yeah, absolutely. Like they have not been as good as they were last year. So, and we talked about that. The defense has certainly underwhelmed in spots, and they could be playing a lot better. They've gotten the job done, but they have underperformed compared to their talent level, and hasn't just always been the places where you have inexperience. It's been some of your veterans too. So that's that's got to be fixed. Jay asked, did we play the best version of Carson Beck this year?
Certainly looks that way.
I guess so. Carson really didn't do all that much in that game. I think that's one of the misleading things. I don't like Carson Beck. I don't think he played particularly amazing in that game. But Clemson was on the struggle bus so much from an offensive standpoint. Georgia's, they got a lot of opportunities, and Mike Bobo was really creative in getting the ball out to the perimeter, and they got some success in the run game. And it opened some things up for Carson Beck to hit some big plays, but it wasn't like he just made a bunch of wow throws. I don't think he's. I feel like you got the Carson Beck mostly that everyone else has gotten to a degree. You just weren't. You didn't bait like. I think part of playing them in the first game, you didn't get a chance to expose some of the weaknesses that he displayed in that. In that game, that you saw other teams able to do. So like I feel like let's say you play Georgia this week, I think you'd get about the same that you've seen in other games that they've played this year. Maybe, and you probably bait him into a pick or two, but that's me pure hypothetical. I don't know that for sure. But I don't think you got a totally different Carson Beck. I think just the dynamics of it being a week one game and both teams kind of feeling each other out and not really knowing what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, played a role in how that game sort of played out. But I don't think Carson Beck played particularly amazing in that game, if I'm being honest. But you could say, yeah. He's probably played. It's was one of his better games, that's for sure. So I guess so. I guess long answer, but with kind of the caveat of it being the first game of the year. Jeremiah Payne asks about. He says, seen a lot of people talk about Bryce Baker. Does Clemson pull the trigger on him? That's a good question. And, Clemson has been evaluating its options as far as a quarterback target this late in the cycle. There is a lot of familiarity there is what I can say. Whether or not they actually pull the trigger and offer him and try to get that process going, we'll see. And I think it's got the thing with, when you're doing this, especially when you're talking about a player that is currently committed to another program, with the way Clemson, recruits, you have to make sure that the player himself is serious. Because if it leaks out that Bryce Baker is the guy, and then he, and you haven't gotten him to commit to going through the process to being in the class, that reflects poorly when you try to pivot again. because now it's like the next guy you go after is going to be like, wait, well, okay, so I understand you didn't get, the guy you had decommitted, but I wasn't even the backup. I'm the backup to the backup.
That's right.
And when you're a program that messages the way that Clemson does, it's like you're the guy, and we want you, and we're going to commit to you just as much as you commit to us. It's a bad look, and so I think Clemson is kind of keeping things on the low until they know what's real. I think, and that's just that's my feel on the situation, and just kind of knowing how Clemson has gone about things in the past. Like that's they're keeping things low key right now. So they're working behind the scenes. They plan to get a quarterback one way or the other. But they want. I feel like they want to make sure that whoever they zero in on is serious about and reciprocating that interest to the degree where they feel comfortable. Because
he's going to have to decommit.
Until then, I don't think we'll hear anything.
He's going to have to decommit before he gets that official offer. So
right.
There's that too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and that's one of the things that we'll have to.
It's definitely an interesting thing to watch. Not a situation that I saw Clemson being in at this point in time, but here we are.
Here we are.
Coaching staff's got to figure it out.
David Lowry says the team speed appears to be one of the best in the Dabo era. Do you think is an emphasis for this year? I mean, yeah, I think so. I mean, that was one thing that they talked about a lot in the offseason is they felt like they had collectively as a group like this they had really good team speed. It's really shown on the offensive end, but defensively, I mean, I think you have guys that can run, especially in the back end, but there are things that have the consistency from on that side hasn't been the same, but I think collectively, yeah, I mean, the team speed has been pretty good. And it's shown, but I think it's shown mostly on the offensive end, with your quarterback, obviously, Phil Maffa has hit some really high speeds this year. Obviously the wide receiver room, you've got guys that can run. So yeah, I mean, and even, the offensive line, you've got guys that can get out in space and move. They can move. It's I mean, it's a good group from that aspect. So, and that was definitely a point of emphasis and something that they felt good about, and it's shown on the field for a lot of this year. So, hope to continue to see that for sure. David asks, "Is Cutter Woods on the radar?" Yes, he is on the radar. Not totally convinced he's high up as far as the pecking order is concerned, on guys that they would zero in on, but I don't know that for sure. So, but yeah, they do. The Cutter Woods is on the radar, and that is a guy that they are monitoring for sure. So we'll see whether or not he ends up being the guy they want to pull the trigger on. John with a score update. He says Kennesaw up 2 scores now, about 5 minutes left. Sweet. I'm hate watching Liberty a little bit. So good.
Shout out Kennesaw State. Go get it done, guys.
Tiggs with he's got to keep the tradition up even in the bye week.
Pick Clemson to lose.
Yeah. He says Clemson 10, bye week 75.
Dang.
Dang. Keep it up, man. We're keeping Clemson safe from the potential upset from the bye week.
Tiggs is out here saving the Tigers one prediction at a time.
Yep. He's sacrificing his record every week. He really is a hero. So we really appreciate what you do. Since he started Since he started picking Clemson to lose, I mean, they're 6-0.
We're undefeated since he started picking us to lose. So now he has to. So this is,
requirement.
Yep. It's his burden to bear now. So shout out Tiggs.
Tiger Fan 24 says, if Miami, SMU, and Clemson run the table and Clemson is the odd man out for the title game, and SMU wins it to leave all three teams at 11-1, well, SMU would be 12-1. Could we see both Miami and Clemson get in at large? It's a good question, and it's something that's been posed a lot for various scenarios. Like, if Clemson and Miami go to the title game, SMU is left out with one loss, and Clemson beats Miami, and all teams are Clemson and Miami are 12-1, and SMU is 11-1. Do they all get in? I think that it's on the table. I think it's on the table.
It's hard to say because you'd have to know what's going on in the rest of the conference,
right?
Specifically in the rest of the country. Probably more so in the Big 12, right?
And we don't have any
what's going on in the Big 12,
right? And we don't have any precedent. Well, not like precedent has mattered. I mean, we saw Florida State get left out last year as an undefeated Power 5. But you get what I'm saying. But we don't have any sort of data points to kind of learn from with this 12-team playoff era, and obviously context matters around the rest of the country. So I think it would be I think it could be on the table that you all three get in, but maybe you need some luck. Right now, I would say I would lean no, because I don't think the ACC is going to get enough respect from the committee.
Yeah, that's where I was going to kind of go, Jordan. Is like you'd be hard pressed to convince me of a scenario where 3 teams from the ACC in any season get into the 12-team playoff. The ACC just doesn't garner that type of respect, whether it's fair, unfair. There's arguments on both sides. We've been through that time and time again. It is what it is, right? You're not going to change people's minds. They think what they think about the ACC, and that's just where it's going to lie, right? So for the ACC to get 3 teams in, I don't think there's ever going to be a single scenario in a 12-team playoff where the ACC gets 3 teams in. Maybe outside of the Big 12 just falling apart. Everything's on fire over there. Maybe you get 3 teams in, but I think the ACC is going to be hard pressed to get 2 teams in. And I know there's a lot of scenarios out here with the 3-way tie and somebody being left out and still being undefeated in conference play, which will be absolutely wild. And there's going to be, if that happens, there'll be a fan base out there that is just red hot, steaming mad, rightfully so. Because in college football, one of the things we always say is it always works itself out on the field. Well, there's actually a real possibility this year in the ACC it doesn't work itself out on the field.
Right.
So do I think that's a likely scenario that all 3 teams end up undefeated? No, I don't. Somebody's losing somewhere.
I think somebody's losing. Miami's been skating by.
We talked about Miami in the last post game. I mentioned that at what point does one of these games end up coming up and biting Miami because of how closely they've played? What is it, 3 games in a row now? Where it's coming down to the wire. There's some weird call or some weird thing that happens that people are divided on, or conspiracy theories fly and all that kind of stuff. And I don't get into those things, but you would have to think if Miami continues to play that way, one of these times a team's going to come up and get them. SMU, they're playing great, but they have there's potential landmines out there for them. Clemson is a team that could go out there and lose. They definitely have the toughest schedule left of the team to play, although they have less conference games left. Clemson only has 3 conference games left. I think the other 2 have 5 conference games left. So a lot more opportunities for them to lose, but Clemson has the tougher teams to play left on their schedule as far as the conference games
Yep.
that we have left to play. So, and that's Pitt, Louisville, and Virginia Tech. So all three of those are pretty good teams playing pretty well right now. So obviously Clemson's got the tougher schedule there, but less chances to lose. It's going to be interesting, but I think somebody loses. I don't think we end in a three-way tie. And, to answer your question, no, I think there's no way that three teams from the ACC end up, even in that scenario, an ACC team would be left out. I still think we're hard-pressed to get two teams in. That's just my opinion. I don't think there's very much respect out there for the ACC as a conference. So, I mean, this year's probably shaping up to be a decent possibility of the ACC getting multiple teams in, but I wouldn't bet on it, man. I'm rooting for Clemson to go win that ACC championship, so there's no question. And we ain't got to worry. We ain't got to be at the mercy of, 12 people or whatever the committee size is going into a room and debating whether we deserve a shot in the playoffs. I don't want to live in that world. Not being a part of the ACC, I don't. Even with just one loss, or two. I guess it would be two losses if it's Clemson not winning the ACC title, because we would have to lose another game or the ACC championship game. So that's my take. I don't know. We'll see how it shakes out, though. It's definitely interesting. It's fun to talk about. It would be absolutely wild to see a three-way tie in the ACC with the addition of the new teams.
Yeah, definitely. 27-24 Kennesaw State with the ball. Liberty only has one timeout.
Uh-oh, they're closing the gap?
Yep. David says could be this weekend for Miami playing Florida State. That is a dangerous team. They get some quarterback play. It could happen. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can join you on that one. They're just so bad. Florida State is so bad. Did you watch that Duke game on Friday?
Man, look here. I don't even know what to say about Florida State anymore. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was funny to begin the season to make fun of Florida State and laugh at them because they kept trying to tell us that Mike Norvell was going to turn DJU into, the next freaking Tim Tebow or something, or the next Jordan Travis, if you will, I guess, for a Florida State reference there. But it was funny, but now it's just sad. Like, that team is terrible. Like, and the worst part is they probably should have lost to Cal too. They should probably be winless at this point. So to think that they're going to go in there and beat Miami, I don't think there's any chance that happens. But what I will say is, man, would that be funny? Look, as bad as Florida State's season is, they would be that would make this season bearable for them.
Yeah.
To go in there.
That would be so funny. I'm actually rooting for it to happen.
Not only would it be the funniest thing to watch because Florida State's just that bad of a football team this year, but I'm rooting for it, not because I hate Miami, but one, it obviously helps Clemson. Two, it'd just be fun to watch. And maybe Florida State needs their fans they're halfway over the edge. They're like hanging on to that, that random tree hanging out of the cliff, just waiting to drop 400 feet. They've completely just gone over the edge, and I don't blame them. It's absolutely terrible to watch. You outgain Duke in every statistical category and still lose the game. Like,
unbelievable, man.
Like, they're finding creative.
Malik Murphy threw for 70 passing yards, man.
It's almost reminiscent of some of Clemson's losses last year, where it felt like we were finding some of the most unique ways to lose football games. Like, I remember having these conversations on here last year about Clemson.
They've turned, they've turned it up like 3-4 levels because
they took it to a new.
At least Clemson's offense last year at least had. They at least moved the ball.
Right.
You know what's Florida State's offense has not eclipsed 300 total yards in a single game this year. That is insane. This past game against Duke, I think it was their highest yardage total of the season. I think they were like 290, and they by far their best rushing output. I think they ran for 160 yards. That is unbelievable, man. 7 games into the year, and you haven't even gotten to 300 total yards. That is That is extremely hard to do, man.
It's so bad, man. Yeah, Miami's definitely winning this game, but leave it to Miami. Somehow this will be a close game just because, I don't know, I think Miami just likes playing close games at this point. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they just like showing Cam Ward's heroics at the end of games. I don't know.
I don't know, man. It's so, but yeah, it would be so funny for Florida State to just have a Mickey Mouse Linsanity performance.
Oh yeah,
against Miami and win. I'm not betting it to happen because Florida State.
I'm not predicting it. I'm not betting it.
They've just been so bad, no matter who it's been.
I wouldn't put $1 on it. Well, I might put $1 on it if I had $1 to spare. Right, like you'd probably win a lot of money. If you were willing to put a little bit of money on it. But I would not bet on it to happen at all. Tiger Fan 24 says Cristobal is due for a Cristobal. That's
he I mean, he's tried they've tried honestly. Cristobal, he's been pretty good in late game situations, better than normal. He's definitely due.
Well, I think the odds just tipped in Florida State's favor because Tiggs just picked Miami to win, so that's not good. It's not good for the Miami man.
Yeah, Kennesaw State just got their first win against Liberty, man. That's so.
Shout out Kennesaw State. Way to go!
First FBS victory in program. You know what? That's right because this is their first year in the
FBS. Look at them.
And it's against a top 25 team. What a way! Shout out to Kennesaw State, Georgia.
What a way to get your first Power 4 win. Shout out to Kennesaw State, man. Good for them.
Good for them. That's pretty.
Jay says he thinks Miami gets their first blowout in ACC play. Probably.
Yeah, that's more likely. Miami's been skating by, but they're due for it. They're actually due for a blowout win.
Yeah.
And Florida State is just so incompetent offensively. Yeah. I don't see a path where they,
even if Florida State had a chance to, let's say for whatever reason, right? It's one of these weird Miami games and they're playing a team close that has no business, right? Florida State will still find a way to lose the game.
Yeah.
They'll do something stupid. They just will. They're incapable of finishing. They'll find a way to mess it up. I guarantee you. Even if it's in the fourth quarter and they're winning or they got a chance to win, they'll find a way to mess it up. I got no faith in that team.
It's so bad, man. They against Duke on Friday, they had a turnover on 3 straight offensive plays. 3
straight plays. Not 3 straight possessions. I mean, it was 3 straight possessions, but consecutive plays.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do with that? At this point, you just got to feel bad for Florida State fans.
Yeah.
I don't feel that bad for them, though.
I don't feel that bad for them, but if it was another fan base, well, maybe except for South Carolina, I wouldn't that's rough.
At all. I feel slightly bad for Florida State, but then again, I don't because we've been there, so we know how it feels.
Well, we've never been that bad.
Not to this level, no. But at times,
Good Lord.
last season felt like some of the ways that Florida State's losing in Clemson.
Wait, they just put a second on the clock? What?
Uh-oh.
They're clearing the field. Everybody rushed the field and was
Uh-oh.
celebrating.
The fix
And
is
now
in. Uh-oh. Hey, the referee in college football strike again. How about the referees this year, man?
All the students getting back into the stands. They were out there celebrating. I think Caden Salter walked off the field, and now he's back out, the quarterback for Liberty. Like, what is going on? Gotta lock in for one more play.
Hey, college football referees must have had a conference before the season started. They were like, "Hey, let's make this interesting."
Yeah, let's just find a way to make every single game
find a way
controversial.
to be in the headlines after every single week of college football this year, and they successfully done it. So, shout out to them. There's like every year there's controversial calls and crazy endings of game, but like this year certainly feels like it's happening way more often. With the big like that whole thing with Texas and Georgia, that was wild, dude. Like,
never seen anything like that, man.
I don't even know what to say about that other than their explanation was completely ridiculous and obviously a lie. Like,
okay, now the game's over. Did Caden Salter just kick the ball out of it? It's like he didn't even try to get it. Man, what a game! Good for they get to celebrate twice. That's the bright side. If you're a student, you get to rush the field twice.
That's right. Do it one more time.
Yep. All right. Don't think we're going to get any callers tonight. So I think this is a good time as any to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. All right, guys. We are 2 hours and 20 minutes into the show tonight. We still got 39 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. Really do appreciate you. Each and every one of you are what makes this show what it is. You guys getting into the comment section, hanging out with us every Wednesday night. Truly is pretty awesome. Thanks for showing up and showing out once again. Don't forget, every Wednesday night we're right here for the All In Show, 8 p.m. And then immediately following every single Clemson Tiger game, me and Jordan will be right here on the channel to give you our live post-game reactions. So stay tuned for those as well. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Hope you enjoy your weekend of college football. Although our Tigers will not be playing, it's still fun to watch college football. I'll be watching it all day. It'll be a ton of fun. And the best part is you don't got to worry about Clemson getting any injuries. You don't got to worry about them losing. Nothing bad can happen.
Yep. Knock on wood. It sounds
like
you're purposely trying to put Juju on the program. Like what was that? Nothing bad can happen.
My bad. I take it back. Yes, Tiggs, we were taking callers. I posted the StreamYard link in there a couple times, but that's all good. We'll do it again sometime and see if we can get any callers. Might do it again next show. We'll see. Let us know if you guys want us to keep offering the call-in portion. If not, it's completely cool. We'll keep doing what we've always been doing, but we thought we'd just try it once and see what you guys thought about it.
And and I think next time we should, we can put it in the put it in the title, because I think that helps a ton too.
Yeah,
kind of lets people. But we wanted to surprise you guys. We didn't want to spoil it this go around. So we'll definitely open it back up again, another show. So, but just let us know if you guys want to us to continue to do that. So. With that being said, great show. Thank you guys so much for those of you that have tuned in. You know,
Absolutely.
especially when we do these shows, you know, we hit that 2+ hour mark. Like, you guys are really, really awesome. You guys are sickos because it's almost 10:30.
Everybody's like, please shut up so I can click off this video. Yeah. Hey,
absolutely.
Before we get out of here, though, Jordan, 92 all-in shows in the books. This is our 92nd episode.
Incredible,
So,
man. We
only
are
8 away from that 100th episode. So you guys start thinking about ideas for us and our 100th episode. Help us out. You guys may be far more creative than us and come up with better ideas. So in the comments of this video, not the live chat, but in the comments of this video, come back to the video, comment in the comment section, ideas for me and Jordan for our 100th episode. Again, we're only 8 episodes away. So 8 weeks from now, we will be doing our 100th episode of the All In Show. So help us out with that and come up with some good ideas.
And I think Tiggs just coined the name. I don't think we can do much better than this. I think this is going to have to be the All In Call In.
The All In Call In.
I think that's. I think if we keep that go, if we get it started, I think that's going to be it.
See, that's what I'm talking about. See,
that's why this is why we have you guys around.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we need the comment section. You guys are way more creative than us. I'd have never came up with that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate all you guys. Like I said, come back after the video, comment what you guys want us to do for the 100th episode, and we will figure it out. That'll do it for the 92nd episode of the All In Show. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, go Tigers.
Later, y'all.